Hello and welcome back to Yorkshire Talks, where we're talking to some incredible Yorkshire folk about their lives and everything that's going on in our fantastic county. And welcome back, Christine. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm looking forward to our podcast today. We've got a very special guest.
We have indeed.
You been busy?
I have been very busy. It's been Pride season, so there's been a lot going on, which has been fantastic. But what about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I've a couple of holidays over the summer, trying to move my mum over from where she lives over to nearer me because she just needs that bit of extra support. But I'm telling you, having to empty a house where she's hoarded everything for the last 60 years... is not easy.
I can imagine. That's a mammoth
It's been a busy few months.
Oh,
but,
bless you.
Anyway, but we're joined today by a very special guest, aren't we?
We are indeed. Today on Yorkshire Talks, we're chatting with an incredible young woman who has been making waves in the TV world and also the business world as well. She's a lass from Yorkshire, an owner of a string of fitness studios, and most recently impressed Lord Sugar. You were on The Apprentice and won.
Yes, she did. She is Rachel Woolford. Lovely to have you with us, Rachel.
Oh, lovely to be here, and thank you for such a lovely intro.
Oh, and it's a few months now since you actually found out you were going to be Lord Sugar's chosen one. You're the one who went, "You're hired."
Yeah.
Those memorable words. Have you come down to earth yet?
It's still bizarre to me that I went on that show and ended up winning it. I think anyone has to have some self-belief to go on it. So I'm not saying I had none, but I definitely didn't have the belief in me that I was going to win it. I think I went on it with, I'll be myself and I'll see what comes of it. And my biggest thing going on it was to, not change who I am and not to just start, like I think The Apprentice traditionally, there's a few kickoffs and people argue in the boardroom. I said to my parents before I went on it, I will not be doing any arguments in the boardroom. That's not me. And if they want to make good TV of me, and that's how they're going to do it, then they're just not going to get it out of me. Mm-hmm. And I think because I stuck true to myself, that's probably one of the reasons I did end up winning, because I didn't put anything on. I was literally myself the whole way through, whether they liked it or not. So have I come back down to earth yet or not? I'm not sure. Is the honest answer. It's been the strangest year, is how I would say it. It's been a very, very different year to any other I've experienced.
Well, that's incredible. And I think what you've just said about being your authentic self, that comes across. I mean, The Apprentice is my guilty pleasure. I absolutely love it. So I watched your whole journey.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredible to see how far you've come with it. And I want to ask loads of questions. So I'm so interested. I mean, you film it a year ago. So it's like 12 months before it actually airs. So how does the process kind of work in that way?
So you find out you're on the show not long before you actually go to start to film. So that period of time is a very strange period because obviously you can't tell anyone you're doing it. Mm-hmm. And I had a business already. So I had to prep that for myself to leave, which I've been on holiday when I've had my business. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not the first time I'd left it. But you're not just leaving it, you're not in the city to start with. You've not got your phone. You can't access your emails. So I had to really spend the weeks before that prepping the business, prepping my staff, who basically none of them apart from two knew I was going. Mm-hmm. So they were all like, where's she going? And I actually had to say I was doing jury service, which is something I was told to say. I didn't make that up and pull it out of the net. And I feel awful to this day because it just so happened the week I left, there was a huge case in Leeds court and everybody thought I was that
you were on it.
And it just so happened that week and my mum was like, everybody was worried about you because of this court case you're on. I thought, when I find out what I actually did, they're going to think, what? How does she lie? That I had to lie for legal reasons. So that's what I always say. And then, you have to prep yourself, and get everything together, your outfits, etc. So it was a crazy few weeks. I felt massively in limbo because nobody knew why I was stressed and where I was going, apart from my mum, dad, my boyfriend at the time, who is now my fiance. I made that sound like I had a different boyfriend. He was my boyfriend, he's now my fiance.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So he knew, my family knew, and, a couple of my staff. But it was, a strange period. Anyway, went on to the show and, you film it and you're away from home for, I think it was just over 9 weeks I was away from home. And then you come back and you basically have to
pretend that nothing has happened. Yeah.
Do you have no contact with the outside world at all during that period?
Very rarely. You get, a phone call every 7 to 10 days, depending on filming. And it is literally 10 minutes. It's not a big catch up. And you're obviously also like, you can't say what you're doing. So when it's a catch up, it was more for me. It was more about what they were doing. And I know, my mum really struggled, and she didn't let it on until I got home how much she struggled without me. She does work for me. So, part of it was, she missed me being in the business, but me and my mum are very close. And I think she struggled me not being on the other side of the phone. And it was very regimented when we did speak, and what I could say and what I couldn't say, which is mad. Like, I've always told my mum everything. And by the end, she was like, well, I'm guessing you're in London, because they're the curtains that were in the phone call, because it was FaceTime. So she could kind of guess where I was and what I was doing, but I couldn't confirm or deny anything. Or towards the end, I was letting off a bit more. I was like, by the way, if you don't hear from me on Monday, I'm in the final. So I was like trying to I was letting off more than I could by the end. But to be honest, I was so...
Were you chaperoned? Sorry, Christine, were you chaperoned on those calls?
Oh, everything. You're never alone.
Why do they go to such extremes? I mean, what would happen, say, if, for the contestants that have, say, young families, or they have to do the same, do they?
They get a little bit longer, to be fair, if you've got children. I don't, so I had, my set time. But even if you had children, it's, respect to any of those guys that did it. My good friend Sam and Amina, those two girls have got really young daughters. And, to leave their children is such a brave thing. And I think, those girls did amazing. And I've got so much respect for them, because I don't know if I could have done it. And it's tough. That was probably the toughest thing. The tasks are tough, and, you're tired. But for me, and I'll be the first person to admit it, I was definitely the most homesick person in that show.
Well,
I struggled massively. All I spoke about was Leeds. All I spoke about was my boyfriend, which I've never been one of those girls to be like, boyfriend. Flo was like, all you do is talk about him. And she's one of my close friends, by the way, so I'm not saying it in an awful way, but it was out of my comfort zone majorly. And like I said, it was not actually to do with the actual tasks. It was more being away from work. I had major guilt. I used to lose sleep over it. And I used to say because you have welfare, checking in with you, and they're like, how are you coping? And I was like, I'm coping fine with the tasks, but I'm not coping great with being away from the business. And I used to go to sleep at night thinking, oh my gosh, I hope everything's running okay. And it was a very, and I can't compare it, because I know mum guilt is something entirely different, but maybe if I was explaining what I mean by that, it'd be maybe some of those girls had mum guilt, I had work guilt. Do you know what I mean?
So why did you think, I want to go on The Apprentice? Was it because, you have a successful business, it's called North Studios, you've got one in Leeds and one in Harrogate, doing really well, and I know you were planning to expand. Was it to raise the profile of the business or what was behind it? Is it something you've always wanted to do?
I've been asked that so many times, and I struggle to give one answer, because I still don't know. I think I need to dig deep and find out myself. But I have watched it for years, and I've always been like, you watch them and you think, why did they do that? Or she's this, and everybody's done that that's watched it, and people will have watched me and said the same thing. So I get it, but now I understand, what actually goes on. It is a very difficult process. But I think my motivations, at least that I can think of, is to raise the profile of the business. I'm not going to even hide that. And I know a lot of candidates go on it to raise the profile of the business. It wasn't to raise my profile. I'm not really that bothered about being an influencer or anything like that. But it was definitely, if my profile, maybe it would directly raise North Studios, which it has, which is amazing. But I think the other thing, and this is quite a personal reason, and it's something I've not really spoken publicly about, but I'm very open and okay to admit, is I've got a dad who did very well in his own business life. And I think I was so sick of being in his shadows. And that wasn't him putting that on me. That was other people. And I think everyone was like, growing up, people were like, oh, you'll be fine because your dad did all right. You'll be fine because your dad's really good, so you'll take after him. And it's like, no, I think my main thing was, actually, guys, I can do this myself. And it's quite extreme to go on a TV show to prove to everyone that you can do it. But I'm crazy in my own ways, and I'm definitely not normal. So I think a big personal reason was to actually be like, I don't need to live in someone else's shadow.
And do it yourself, and actually take control of it.
Show independence, which, to this day, people still think my dad's a big part of my business. He isn't at all. He doesn't want to be. He's like, you go do your own thing. But I think people think my business was successful because my dad has been. And, listen, I don't know if my business will ever be as successful as what my dad did. He built something up from nothing and did some amazing things. But I think a big thing was being like, you know what, give me a break. I'm doing this myself.
Stepping out of his shadow.
And it was nothing to do with him. He didn't. It's never been his pressure. It's actually always been external
What
forces.
does he make of your success? I bet he was bursting with pride.
Oh, you know what? He's a typical Yorkshireman. He doesn't show much emotion. Maybe he's tough. He is, and it's done him the world of good being the way he is. And I've always felt like I've not felt very accomplished. And even though, my parents have been so supportive of whatever I've done, whether that's at school or uni, they've been so proud, and I'm not saying they haven't, but it's the first time I've seen my dad. I remember I FaceTimed him when I called to say I was in the final, and he was with my mum and Ben, my fiance, and they were all in this FaceTime, and I'd basically said, I'm coming home, I've been fired. And my mum was like, oh, you haven't, have you? And I was like, it's fine. And then I was like, no, I'm joking. I'm in the final. And my dad, he doesn't cry, like he was crying.
Oh,
and I
so nice.
know. And for my dad to cry and for my dad to say he's proud is, if you knew who my dad was and the way he acts and the way he's all like, I mean, you'll met him.
I know your dad, yes.
He's just a typical Yorkshireman, tough, hard as nails, broad Yorkshire accent. And he was just absolutely thrilled. And I think it was that was the first moment I thought, wow, my dad, like, not that he's always said he's proud of me, but it's the first time I've genuinely felt it. And then when I actually won the show, it was like, it was a very, I have to kind of block off my emotions so I don't get emotional talking about it. But yeah, it was a very like amazing moment.
Yeah, I can imagine the emotion behind it all. And he must have been immensely proud, as you were saying. And to get that from your dad as well was amazing.
Yeah, the way he is, it's definitely a bit of a tick box for me.
And you talk about your dad, and he's a typical Yorkshireman, and you're very much grounded in Yorkshire. How much do you think that down-to-earthness, that Yorkshire grit helped you towards becoming the final winner?
So much. I think if you watch The Apprentice, a lot of Northerners have done quite well in the show anyway. And I think the thing with being Northern, and it's no disrespect to the South, I've got some great friends, including Flo from the show, who is as posh as it gets. So like, it was funny. We were in a room together for 9 weeks. She was the poshest person ever. And I'm like, all right, love, like walking into the room. And by the end, like her and I were just the best of friends and still are to this day. And we are so different on paper if you looked at us. And I think being down to earth is massive, because I think, don't get me wrong, it's so good to blow your own trumpet, because you have to, it's mad, isn't it? It's that, there's two elements to it. You have to be confident in yourself, for example, to get a job promotion or to go to a job interview, and you have to be like, well, I've achieved X, Y, Z. But at the same time, I think there's a fine line of you have to be very, not too showy offy. And I'm so grateful my parents ingrained that to me from a young age. They never wanted me to be the show off. And even if I won something, they'd be like, so like sports day, I was a good sprinter at school, but I was encouraged by them, thank God. Now I'm so pleased they did, to, not be running around saying I just won that, and make sure you speak to everybody else that came second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and say well done to them. And I think that's a good sportsmanship as well, and that probably helps in business. I think it's never good to be the one that goes around saying, I've won this, this and this. And we've all been there in a conversation with someone, haven't we, where they're listing off their achievements and you're like,
bigging themselves up.
They don't come up for breath. It happened to me last week, and this guy was telling me everything he'd done. I was at this event last week, and I was on this table with my two friends, and when you're all like, is he going to shut up? And he was lovely, and it didn't mean anything. He didn't have a nasty bone in his body, and I think it's good to be aware.
Yeah,
I think it's that grounding that you have, and I think I know your mum and your dad, and they are very grounded people, and I think that's, to be honest, I think that shone through with you through the whole series of The Apprentice. And I do think Alan Sugar saw something in you from the very beginning, didn't he? But another thing that it was interesting was that one of your fellow contestants, Paul, you discovered you used to even get the same school bus every morning, didn't you? And you'd never met till you actually, or you didn't realise it till you got on the...
so weird.
Yeah, and he was a dentist, had the dentist business.
Yeah, he's a very well-respected dentist in Leeds. He's got a practice and he's just about to open his second one. He's a couple of years older than me, so we never really mingled at school. But what happened was we were in, so the first time you meet each other is in the boardroom, the very first scene. Like there's no, hi, I'm Rachel, all that. It's not like that. You literally see each other and you can hear each other breathe. It is that intense. And the boys are on one side, the girls are on the other. And there's 18 of you in there, so you don't immediately see everyone. And Lord Sugar was going down the line of people, going, you're Paul that makes pies, you're this, you're that. And he went, and you're Paul the dentist, because there was another Paul, you're Paul the dentist. And didn't really think anything of it. And he went, where are you from? And he went, I'm from Leeds. I thought, so I look over slyly and I'm like, oh my God, it's Paul from school. Yeah. And anyway, we walk out after and I went, you're not Paul from GSAL? He went, yeah. And I went, oh, I went to the same school. Do you remember me? And he was like, oh yeah, I do. And he didn't. He definitely didn't. But you know when you're at school, like it's not cool to know the girls 2 years younger.
Yeah.
But I knew who the boys were 2 years older. And anyway, this is even weirder. Not only did we get the same school bus, we lived on the same street. To this day, our parents live 500 yards apart.
I did not know that as well.
We lived on the opposite side of the street. He got picked up that end, I got picked up that end.
That's incredible.
And you both end up on the same programme on national telly.
Honestly, our school were having a field day because we were the last three. We were down to the last three. We were together.
Yeah. And I think it could have been you two in the final had he gone along with Lord Sugar's suggestion to take over his business.
Yeah. And do you know what? It was really nice to have someone from Leeds in the show with me, like I said about the homesickness. Weirdly enough, we had some mutual friends. So his cousin is a very good friend of Ben's, and like as the weeks went on, I'd be like, do you know X, Y, and Z? He'd be like, yeah, I know it. Like Leeds is a village, isn't it? But we knew so many of the same people, and it was actually really comforting to talk about.
To have someone.
We were talking about Street Lane and just all these things that we both knew, and everyone else was like, what are you on about? But it was just so nice to have that there.
That's lovely. Is Lord Sugar as scary in real life, or is he really a pussycat?
I wouldn't say he's a pussycat. I would say he likes you to be straight with him.
I can imagine that. I can imagine that.
If you tell him, if you make something up, he will just call you out. There's no point. Yeah. And I think he doesn't like, over explanation of things. Did you sell it? Yes or no? You had some of them saying, well, no, I didn't sell it, but blah, blah, blah. And he'd be like, just stop.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I thought fair play, we've life's short, we've got a job, we need to move on. And he reminded me of my dad because my dad is very cutthroat, and like I said, typical Yorkshireman. Did it sell? Yes or no? And I think that's probably why I coped quite well in the boardroom as well, because I've grown up with someone who, you can't lie to my dad. He'll catch you out. And I think because I've been brought up to kind of just say it as it is. Yeah, I coped quite well. Yeah. With him, and do you know what he's tough, but once he's not there to be nasty. He's there to get a job done and basically work out why something did or didn't work. And at the end of the day, rightly so, he's investing 250 grand. So it should.
Yeah, he wants to know that.
It should go to the right person, absolutely. And someone who's not just going to throw it away. Yeah, believe me, some of those people, had they won it, that 250 grand would have gone like that.
Well, the business plans, some of the business plans, watching it and being a big fan, some of the business plans when they were talking, and obviously I love the interview, where you all get interviewed by the five.
Yes, that's
and they completely rip your business plans apart. That must have been so intimidating with some of those big players within the business world to have them scrutinise your business, especially when you've got a successful business already. How did you cope with that?
That is when it gets scary on the show, because it then gets personal. Business isn't personal. You can say that all day long, but when it's your baby that you've grown and someone is there ripping it to shreds, it is personal. And, there was a big build up to that day. I literally put that business. So when you find out you're on the show, it's like, right, you need to submit a business plan. So I literally quickly put something together. I won't say any names, but there were people in that process who'd had theirs written up by professionals and paid for them, and accountants had looked over them. I literally was like, right, quick. Wow. I don't have time for this. You know what I mean? And I laid it all out, and I'm quite good at putting things together anyway, but hadn't paid anyone. I was like, right, there might not even be a chance to get to that part. I've got a business to run between now and getting on this show, so I don't have time. Which might sound like an excuse, and maybe it is, but I got there and I had to deal with what I'd written. And not only was that, it was like 32 degrees in London that day. You're not allowed air conditioning on because of the noise with the cameras. Yep. So I am there absolutely sweltering. I can't wear that suit ever again. There's nothing dry cleaner can do to that suit to sort that out. I was in this lilac suit. And
it was a very nice suit. It was a very nice suit.
I can't wear it again now. I was sweltering. And obviously, you're not only sweltering because of the weather, you're then getting grilled. Why did you make this decision? Claude said something like, you've got loans here, you've got loans there. Where's the money? And I thought, well, I've got one business loan, Claude, and that was to grow my business. But okay. But you cannot get through to them. But that is the point,
Yeah.
I remember Linda Plant, who I met for a coffee a few days ago, who was lovely. But she was like, Rachel, you don't offer memberships. You don't offer memberships. I was like, we do. We've offered memberships since day one.
Right.
But in the scene where she says you don't offer memberships, you just see me going. And I thought, that's not how it played out. I definitely defended myself. And also, there are around 45-minute conversations, and you see 2 minutes of each.
2 minutes of it.
Which is fine. It's a TV show.
It's a TV,
But it's a shame there were some bits which I would love my parents to have seen. I had a really good conversation with Linda, for example, about Leeds and, what it means to have a business in Leeds, and it'll never get shown. But I had some really good conversations as well.
Yeah.
And Claudine she was great, actually. She was more, she wasn't trying to rip you apart. She was like, who are you as a person?
Yeah.
What's your motivations in life?
And get more deeper into it than actually just the
Yeah.
business plan being there.
Exactly. So it was a
Yeah.
very intense day, and by the end of it, we were
You're
all
frazzled.
none of us spoke. We all just went to bed, and it was like
I'm not surprised.
traumatised.
It looked like a traumatic day. And you just talking then about the editing process, which can sometimes be a bit unfair and must have been annoying when you had. But also, you didn't really know you'd actually won until just before it was aired on TV, did you? Because is it okay for us to say you filmed 2 endings?
Yeah.
Now, what was that like? It must have been so weird and a bit brutal as well.
So I had no idea. I hadn't done any research. Like, I'd watched the show, but I didn't know anything about how the final works. And I thought this was a top secret until I saw this on the BBC website. But we filmed 2 endings. And that was a bit strange in itself, because I'm not very good at being fake and being like, oh yeah, I won, amazing. Even though, and also how cringe, I didn't know I'd won and I had to be, emotional about winning. And I think it was hard as well, because I thought, Lord Chung must have thought, how ungrateful is she? She didn't really get very emotional when she found out she'd won, even though I didn't know if I'd won or not. Do you know what I mean? So it was a bit of a strange one, was that, I've got to admit. And Phil and I both felt a little bit uncomfortable doing that bit, because it was a little bit fake.
Well,
it's the only fake part of the show.
It can't be a real reaction, really, is it?
No.
It's
No,
not.
it
Yeah.
can't.
And I'm not an
definitely
actress
not.
at the end of the day. Yes, I was on TV, but I ain't an actress. I was just being me. So it was a bit awkward. And being totally honest. And then, there's a big gap between filming that scene and finding out if you've won anyway or not. Which is, it's quite a crazy period. And it wasn't something I was aware of until, it actually happened to me. And I was told, right, that day we filmed the ending, it was like, right, you're going to go home now for the next however many months, crack on with life. And, we finished that scene at 5:00 in London on the Sunday. I was back in Leeds in work on the Monday at 7 a.m. Right, cracking on as usual.
Yeah, just getting
And everyone's
on with
like, how was the
It
trial
was
in
very
Leeds?
overwhelming. Oh my God, yeah. And they're like, were you on that big case? And I'm like, no, it wasn't that one.
So to fudge it a
And
bit.
then
I know, that's hilarious.
Honestly, I had a
That's
client.
hilarious.
So one of my staff who knew where I was training one of the clients, and she went, I know Rachel's not on jury service because I work in the courts. And I was like,
You were rumbled.
Great, I know. So poor Karina, God bless her soul, and she's one of my amazing team at North, was like, oh yeah, had to literally just scoot her over, even because she did know where I actually was. But yeah, it was that's a very hard thing in itself, because 7 months in business world is quite a long time, because opportunities come up all the time to maybe expand or try something new. And I felt for the last year a little bit in limbo as to what to do with the business, because things have come up which I've not been able to say yes or no to, because
it's someone else's.
potentially I could win the show, and that could take it in another direction.
In a different direction, yeah.
So it's been a bit of an odd year, really.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the other thing is, obviously, a hardworking young businesswoman, but catapulted suddenly becoming a celebrity.
I
How
don't know
has
about
that
that,
been?
Christine.
Well, but it's true. You
The
will
profile and
have your.
everything that comes
How
with it.
has that been for you? Have you found that a difficult process where people recognise you in the street, for example?
I've had a bit of a difficult few months, and it's nothing to do with being recognised in the street. I don't it's people are so nice. I've not had in the street to your face. Nobody's ever nasty, right? I've had, and even every day, it's really strange. Every day, someone says something about The Apprentice to me, and I still think, God, are people it was 8 weeks ago? are people not over it and they're not. Like, people are lovely and they're so nice. And I'm out with Ben all the time and he's like, God, people love the show, don't they? But that's not been the hard bit. I think the hardest bit for me was the negativity that comes with it. And I had a difficult few months adjusting to, especially the first few weeks, having people comment publicly or like message me not very nice things. It was something that I was warned about. I'm not acting like a victim, because before you go on any TV show, I'm sure, I was definitely told there is the risk that you're going to get trolled, or is the risk that someone might turn up at your work, or someone might, which we did. We had a photographer turn up at work one day without any knowledge, and I literally walked out of my work on this Friday morning. I looked horrific. Like, I just had my little sweatshirt on, no makeup on. This guy was taking photos of me to sell to a newspaper, which I was just so, I was like, surveying the building is genuinely what I thought he was doing, and he wasn't. He was there for me. Which that was bizarre. And there's another building next door, which I also lease, and I had to text my mum from that building saying there is a photographer stood outside, just stay inside, because I didn't want my poor mum to have any involvement in it. But it was, that was a bit bizarre. And it's been a weird time adjusting, and I think it's only been the last month where I've really started to be happy again. And I know that sounds weird, but the first month was really tough.
So it made you unhappy? Are you?
Yeah, the first month was really hard. I think I've read some horrific things which I shouldn't have read. And like,
I don't, specifically about you.
Yeah. So one example was a certain newspaper, and I won't say the name of it, but a journalist who definitely isn't a financial journalist had done some research, and it was not great research, done some research on my business, and has decided to write a story about me saying that my business had never made a penny. And they basically, anytime newspapers write a story, it goes on Facebook, and I haven't realised that. And it comes up on all these news articles were coming up on my suggested Facebook things to read. And I only go on Facebook for work, and I was logging on for work, and like this newspaper, I nearly said it then, had written this thing about me, and the headline was like, it was awful. It was basically saying that Lord Sugar had taken on my debt, and he was rescuing me from my debt. Anyway, there was 500 comments, and I should not have clicked comments.
Right.
Oh,
and they were all absolutely going in on me, saying I'd won because I was pretty, saying I'd won because I was a female, saying I'd won because he invested in the gym last year, saying Phil, a lot of it was about Phil and how Phil should have won. But Phil's business, and I'm only saying what happened on TV. His business had operated at a loss for the last 2 years, but nobody decided to focus on that. Like, they were all focusing on my business, and that I'd made a loss in COVID, which we operated for 5 months of that year, and I still paid my rent. My staff still got paid. I basically took a very little amount of money for myself, but we traded for 5 months. The rest of it, we were forced to be closed. I just think, how can you go in on my business that I managed to keep open? Like, people couldn't wait to attack me. And I was warned as well that being the only female finalist, which I couldn't believe what I was told, and I can't say who said it to me, but it was a very well-respected person in the media, said, because you're the only female, that you will naturally potentially get more trolling and more interest. And that literally came as a total shock to me. And I was like, yeah, whatever. A week later, I realised what this person who'd warned me meant. And it was a really tough period. And still now there will be comments out there that I'm sure are happening, but I make sure, I had to delete LinkedIn off my phone because it was happening on LinkedIn.
Right.
I deleted Facebook off my phone. TikTok, I was getting some nasty comments saying, someone put, you said your business was profitable and it wasn't, you lied to win the money. And I thought, people are just, it was a tough month.
There always is that negative thing around it.
You've experienced the same with Married at First Sight, haven't you, as well?
And I was quite lucky as well. And I'm going to reinforce what you were just saying, this advice that you got, because speaking to some of my friends now that I was on the show with, it is the women that seem to get all the negative. I thought there may have been some negative stuff, obviously being the first LGBTQ person on the show, but actually there was hardly anything that came through. And I was quite surprised at that. But then speaking to some of the female people on it, they were getting trolled and they were getting loads of abuse. It's really interesting that.
I wonder why that is.
I know you would have thought that things would be equal, but they're still not, obviously.
Maybe it's a jealousy element, do you think?
Well, the way it was explained to me by the same person, I can't say this person is because it was like quite a confidential conversation, but what I can say is this person said to me the week before it was announced I was a winner, the newspapers, there is underlying sexism. And the reason is, when you're reading the newspaper, or say you're online, because nobody really reads newspapers anymore, but say you're online scrolling through articles, if there's a picture of a woman in a bikini versus a man fully dressed, or a man, I don't know, on a beach, you're going to click the girl. And I do. Like, I'm like always looking, I'm like, wow, she looks good. And I'm not saying I don't do that myself, but I think psychologically, like, that's the clickbait. And there's been no pictures of me in a bikini, thank God. But they are more likely to, if there was articles about me and there was articles about Phil that week, and you are just more likely to click on the one about the female, which again, it was told to me. And it is all news to me. Like, that is something I was never aware of until I was told, no, and actually that does make sense.
Obviously, I mean, it's been obviously been a shock to you. I can tell that you've had a difficult time. It's not been easy. Has it made you more wary about where you go, who you speak to, looking over your shoulder, wondering if there's a photographer going to be outside everywhere you go?
I mean, the photographer thing, I think that was definitely a one-off. Like, people have, thank God Love Island started, so people are not interested in me and The Apprentice anymore. And the people that speak to me are more just like, well done, you know, watched on the show. But the thing that I am more wary about is, I don't know, people maybe, for example, the work phone. I've got two numbers basically. I've got the work phone connected to my mobile, because technology now, you can put two SIMs in one phone, which is great. And I've got my personal number. And like, when the show ended, I was getting loads of random calls on the work phone, and I was warned it could be journalists or it could be people, you know, digging for things. And I did have a few weird calls, and I've had a few problems with that. And I think ever since, like, now, I let the phone go to voicemail. And if they leave a voicemail, I'll call them back if it's a genuine client. And it's not like, that's a bit of a negative, because I used to be so confident with, and it's not that I'm not confident speaking on the phone, but I'm more, if the phone rings and I don't know the number now, I wait. And I'm very wary of people maybe trying to get information, and people asking me maybe personal questions. Like, I had someone the other day, and I was at the Harrogate studio, and I was outside, and this guy was like, and I know of him, and he said to me, so what are you going to do with the money? Are you going to buy a new house with it? And I was like, well, A, none of your business. But B, I've not won a game show. He's not giving me some money to go splash. Like, it is a business investment. Like, it is to grow North Studio. It is not to grow my personal bank. Well, hopefully in the long run to grow my personal bank account. But it is not for me to go, oh, do you know what? Fancy going on holiday. It's not that. It's, you know, this is a serious thing. And you know, things like that. I just don't, where I used to laugh it off and maybe be a bit of a pushover, I'm quite blunt with people now. Like, if they do that, I'm just like, no, it's a business investment.
So it's toughened you in that way.
I took myself out of that situation. It's you know, people are nosy, and I put myself on TV, so that's fair enough. You can. I'm not blaming people, but when you ask me stuff like that, I'm like, come on.
It's rude. Basically, it's rude. Isn't it? It is.
And people think they're entitled to come up to you and say whatever they want because you've been on TV. And that's the thing that you do have to deal with as well. And you must have had it as well.
Well, to a much smaller extent than either of you two. You've both been in big high-profile shows, but you are wary. I know exactly what you mean about my phone rings and I don't know who it is. I also, you know, I just think, no, you can leave a message or you can text me and I'll ring you back. And that's something I've just learned over the years as well. And it's also because your family you probably have to put them on high alert as well, don't you, all the time? I think
people will come in, and my mum is so lovely. So my mum works on my reception for me. She's amazing. She's more than a receptionist, is definitely not what she's defined by. She does so much amazing stuff for the business, whether that's, you know, getting new clients on board. She cleans that place from top to bottom. She makes it such a special place. But I told her, and because she's so lovely, people talk to her and they open up to her, and I said, during this period and afterwards, be careful what people are coming in and asking you, because people will ask you things, and before you know it, you've said something that we shouldn't have said. And I mean, my sister is so defensive of me. She's high alert anyway. She was high alert before I went on the Apprentice. She's like, if anyone spoke anything about me, she's younger than me, but she's almost like a big sister sometimes. But my mum and dad, I did say to them, just be careful what people say or what people are trying to ask, and you know, and don't
because they'll come in all guises, won't they? And try and trick you, and try and trick your family to get information, and that's the sad thing, isn't it? You have got to be really wary.
Yeah, you do. So you do have to.
Yeah.
But I mean, my guard's definitely up more than it used to be, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. It's definitely made me more wary, and I don't. Yeah, it's a shame sometimes, isn't it? Because you don't want to be.
Yeah.
I don't want to be blunt to people. I don't mean like I'm so friendly and. All right, you know, maybe I used to be, I hope I still am, but I think, it definitely makes you a little bit more wary.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
So you're hopefully coming through the initial part, and it will die down eventually,
100%.
won't it? All that side of it, certainly. But what's next? What's the plan for you coming up in the next year or so?
So, I mean, the last month, you know, I've really started to feel myself again, which is amazing. And, you know, I'm so excited now. I think now I feel the excitement for what's ahead rather than, you know, a few months ago, it was more like, how am I going to get through the next month? Whereas now I'm like, brilliant, you know, we can focus on the business. And, you know, Lord Sugar and I are in conversations about what's next for North Studio. And that is, you know, setting up a reformer studio, which is something that I've been wanting to do for a little bit. And, you know, I've been on the fence about for 18 months, really, because I was waiting to see if I'd won the show or not. And, you know, that is coming. And it's all I can say is it's coming locally to where I already am. So it's not going to be the new location or new city. It is, you know, it's basically going to be an extension of what we already offer. And we do already do Reformer Pilates, but I'm opening a dedicated space for Reformer Pilates. So it's going to be just Reformer, and it's you know, touch wood, going to be, it's all kind of going through at the minute. So that's kind of the next step. And then going forwards, there is an opportunity coming up in Leeds as well. So again, same city, which I'm really proud to kind of keep the business in Yorkshire. And it's something that's opening up towards the end of this current year, which it's basically a business in Leeds, which I may be becoming a part of.
Right.
That sounds
which
exciting.
I know. I can't really say what it is because more because if it might not go through, but that is kind of something that I'm hoping to do with Lord Sugar as well. So, you know, I can't splash all the money on this Reformer studio. So I'm having to watch what I spend on the Reformer studio, but I need some money left over to do the second project as well. So it's all systems go, and you know, I'm now really, really excited for the future, and I now see everything as, you know, what an amazing opportunity I've got coming up. And also, you know, I didn't want to sound ungrateful when I was saying I've been through all that tough stuff a few months ago, because I realised like I'm in such an amazing opportunity. I'm in such an amazing position, and we've got some, as a business and for myself personally, you know, I've got a really exciting year coming up. So to expand North Studio sustainably.
Is that involving the boyfriend that's now the fiance?
Yeah, poor thing. He's
Lovely
been put to
Ben.
one side for the last year. I know. So yeah, but you know what? He is so patient with me, and when everything's been so crazy the last 6 months, he's been the one thing that's kind of been stable and made sure that, you know, everything's as normal as it can be at home. And now I can start to look forward to, you know, our future together, which, you know, we want to get married next year. And when I say I want to, again, it probably would have been planned earlier had the Apprentice not got in the way. But I think I didn't want to take on too much earlier this year. I knew the show was going to air, and I thought, do you know what? Not too much at once. And we're hoping to get married in May next year. So yeah, that's exciting. And I've never been one of those girls that's like wedding, but I genuinely am excited. And it's it's bizarre to me because I feel like a child. Like I am. I mean, I'm 30 next year, but I'm like, why are all my friends suddenly getting married? There's children. There's weddings. I'm like, oh my gosh.
You get to that age, and then everyone
honestly,
around you. It's
there's
happening everywhere.
There's a baby shower every weekend. I'm thinking, are we really is this really happening? I can't believe it.
Oh, it's exciting. I'm excited for you.
It's a lovely time of life. It's a lovely time of life.
It's so nice. And, do you know what? I've been to so many weddings in my life, just, you know, whether that's family, friends or cousins, and it's so exciting now that it's your best friends that are getting married, and you can really enjoy the day and be a part of it. And it's a really exciting time.
Oh,
fantastic.
Well, that's lovely news. Now, we ask our guests on Yorkshire Talks to bring in two things when they come in to see us. One is something that means Yorkshire to you. Have you got something with you?
I have. So I brought it in. So it's a bit more Leeds focused, but we'll keep it Yorkshire focused. It's my medal from the Leeds Marathon, which was maybe maybe 5-6 weeks ago now.
Oh, yeah.
It was, and it was the Rob Burrows Leeds Marathon. Now, obviously, sadly, Rob Burrows has lost his life recently. So I guess a big part of why I brought that in today is because of him. And also, you know, I think Leeds Marathon, I entered it because I was like, do you know what? It's in Leeds, better do it. And Bob Bowman, who is the CEO of the Leeds Rhinos Foundation, was like, Rachel, you know, I'll give you the place if you do it. I was like, okay, I'll come along. And I thought, what have I entered into here? Because, you know, I'm a big runner. It's not like it was something massively new to me. I love running, and I'm, you know, I do marathons anyway, but I did it because it was part of being in Leeds, the city.
Let's have a look at it.
What I thought was amazing, and I don't know if you went down that day, but it just showed how special the city is. The atmosphere was the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. I've done marathons in like New York, which obviously New York's New York, it's really cool, whatever. But the atmosphere, I cannot, and I'm not just saying this, that atmosphere was the best I've ever done, because and maybe it helped because, you know, you're running along the way and you do recognise people from Leeds and you're like, oh, I know you. And, you know, because you go through all the villages that are local, and I didn't realise just how many people were going to come out and support, but it actually was just such a credit to the city and Yorkshire itself, because I know a lot of people travelled from around Yorkshire to come do it, but it was such a special event. And whether I do it as a spectator or taking part next year, I don't know, but I will definitely be a part of it in some way, because honestly, all week I was buzzing after that.
Wow.
All because of the atmosphere.
It is. It's amazing, isn't it? When
It was
you get involved with a run like that, and especially because obviously supporting Rob Burrow and everything.
It was such a special day.
It brings the whole city together.
And I think the people of Yorkshire, there's a great love for Rob, but such a sense of community, isn't there, in this part of the world?
Honestly, I said it when I was, because I had so much good support from people from Leeds and the North in general when I was on the Apprentice. But I said it again after the race. There is literally no support like Northern support. It was. Yeah, it was amazing.
I agree.
It was, such a good day. So anybody who's thinking about doing the Leeds Marathon, do it.
Get signed up.
Well, I've done a half marathon. I've not done a full marathon.
Leeds.
I know. It's on my list. It's on my bucket
list. Do Leeds next year, because it's the same day.
Hey.
So you'll get the same
Are you going to do it with me?
You've got to
Will
do
you do
it.
it again?
Do you know what? I'll do the half.
All right. You do the half, I'll do the full.
All right,
It's a deal. It's a deal.
You've heard it here. You've heard it here first.
It's on.
I'll wave at you both as you go past from the side. I'll have water bottles.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you.
And you brought something that's special to you, haven't you, Rachel? What is it?
I did. So this is a photo of my mum and I. So it kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning about, I mean, seeing my dad being really proud of me on the day I won, but also, you know, my mum also, like I said, works for me, and she was just bursting with pride. So I think this photo, we literally found out that afternoon that I'd won. So this isn't like a stage photo where we'd known for 10 days. I literally had known for hours in this picture that I'd won. So I think it really represents a time of like, I finally feel proud of myself, because I'd never really felt very accomplished in life, even though that sounds really dramatic, but I think it's taken something as drastic as going on the show. But I think that day I finally felt like at peace with myself, and I was like, I've finally done something, and something that they're really proud of. And even though, again, they've been proud of me my whole life, I'm really lucky. But yeah, it was a really, really special day for me, my parents, and there was a picture of my dad, but my mum decided to just get this one printed.
Well, I love it.
She brought it into work and she's like, I've got this for you. And I did actually want to bring you the plaque in, but it's actually on my dad's desk. So
is it?
The hired
on his
the
desk.
hired.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I love it.
I actually don't have that in my own home. It's in his, but yeah.
Well, he's so proud of you. He's so proud of you. That's why he has it.
Oh, that's a beautiful picture. Your
Thank
mum
you.
is such a lovely looking lady. I know her well, and she's
so lovely.
as are you
am
as well.
biased, but-
Great genes in your family.
Yeah.
Rachel, whatever you do next, and we're really looking forward to hearing more about it. And good luck, of course, with wedding plans for next year. And so you're on the curve of an exciting new chapter.
Yeah,
and it's been a
definitely.
privilege to chat to you today and find out all about your experience, and looking forward to the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and I've just been so excited about the whole Apprentice thing. So thank you for coming and sharing those stories with us. Very much appreciated.
Thank you for having me part of it, guys. So lucky to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for Yorkshire Talks this week. We'll be back again next week with a new fantastic guest from Yorkshire, and we'll see you then.
Yeah,
From
and
me.
don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss an episode of Yorkshire Talks from me and Matt. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.